The chair recognizes Alderman Ray Lopez.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Good afternoon, members of the City Council. I think to answer my colleague from the 38th Ward's question, why we're doing this, politics and agendas bring us to where we're at. Before the soul of Chicago was announced, before bringing in the light, before moving Chicago forward 100 years ago, there was a saying, Chicago first, Chicago last, Chicago always. What it meant was that what should guide us in everything we do is this city, what's in the best interest of everyone that calls Chicago home. That leading just for the base, governing just for those who put us in office, and being the chief executive of only whatever gives us 26 votes was not what this city's was known for. We saw the last administration say quite blanketly, I'm only interested in getting to 26, which means overwhelmingly that they were willing to discount everyone else's concerns just to get to the finish line. Oftentimes, getting to the finish line exposed some of the most unfortunate hypocrisies in government in this building and in this room. We've heard many arguments for and against why we should start separating contracts and cherry-picking the parts we like in this body and going against what our arbitrator and our employees have negotiated, because apparently we know better here than the people we hire to do this. We are willing to set forward down this path, even though, regardless of views on the FOP, pipe fitters, Teamsters, Amalgamated Transit Union, the electrical workers, operating engineers, firefighters, plumbers, and the Lieutenants Association have all stood in agreement in saying this is not the way. But what do they know? They just work here. What do they know? They just live here. And what do they know? We only ratify their contracts in a very unified manner, which, if we're going to start talking about how we discipline them, then they'll be next. Because then all of their disciplinary things should be made public too. There are ways that we could have a discussion about moving forward, and there are ways that we can actually discuss about increasing true public engagement. We created a whole new system that allows for the public to participate, for the public to engage, not just with the police, not just with the city, but by creating district councilors and a whole commission. And I feel more than entitled to critique that because I voted for it in direct opposition to the FOP's request. But I can also tell you that what I've seen since is absolutely disgusting, because of the fact that you have seen this process of participation go from being a means to engage and communicate and connect to being the political pawn of not just police defunders, but abolitionists. People who genuinely believe that there's no reason to have police at all. People who would think that we live in some fairy tale universe where criminals gladly hand over their guns or knives or tools of mayhem when they're caught, that they don't run, that they don't hide in the shadows. I don't know what part of Chicago that is, but I know it's not anywhere where any of us live. We talk about this public process and why people with so much authority and influence and power over us should be held to a standard. And I think that we have seen a willingness to move in that direction by all parties. We just refuse to take people up on that offer for the sake of maintaining the narrative, of maintaining the political posturing, for instilling that propaganda that nobody wants to work together, when we know that has not been the case. And we're also very selective, Mr. President, on when we're willing to tell those with so much power over our lives that we want to be a part of their disciplinary process. Because I have still yet to hear, since we first had this discussion in December, one person in this room take up the cause of the 446 individuals with sexual abuse claims against CTU members and CPS. Not one resolution, not one call for public arbitration, because they, by the way, to remind all of you, can go directly to arbitration first. Nobody knows, nobody here cares, and yet 446 individuals in 2023 alone, 1,800 cases in the last few years, and yet even some of the most basic of reforms that were learned from what we saw with the Catholic Church have been ignored by that body. A one strike and you're out policy? Nope, not for our kids. Removal from the school until investigation is over? Not going to have it. A public and easily accessible website of all offenders? That's crazy talk in this city. The hypocrisy of what we're discussing today, Mr. President. The sheer outrageous, nonsensical discussion that we only want hypocrisy against one of those individual work groups that we claim have so much power, while ignoring what they'd be willing to destroy in our own families. Shame on you. Shame on all of you who refuse to have that conversation. There are things that we can do better, always. There are things that we should live up to, absolutely. But we are failing because every catchphrase that we throw out there is just designed to be the next banner for someone's reelection, for someone's next ad. What we have forgotten in this room, in this building, is that what should motivate all of us is the city of Chicago. Doing what is best for all of Chicago is what we were sent here to do. Representing our communities, but coming together for those difficult decisions and conversations that we have to have, not only here, but in our communities, where we can explain the difference between a poor 13-year-old being shot and a gang recruit being chased. Because those are two wildly different scenarios. And when we are unwilling to stand before our own constituents and say sometimes there's only one outcome, it is true. And we have to be leaders enough to say that. But we are choosing now to hide behind the politics. We are choosing to pick, in a society that's already struggling, who we are putting our faith in. And I think, as we're thinking about this, and thinking about what we've heard over the last week, and as my colleague said, our colleague said, the march towards removing technology from CPD didn't start the other day. And no matter what happens Friday, it will not end, because there's still plenty of technology that everyone finds racist. We've seen where even this trend has continued outside of our own city, where the extreme criminal enabling dogma says that something as innocuous as a ring doorbell is now wrong to protect yourself. And memorandums of understanding are being canceled all across this country now because God forbid you use ring to catch a criminal. What we are seeing, ladies and gentlemen, is that we are choosing a side. We're choosing a side that we're putting our faith in. We're choosing a side that we think is going to do right by the neighborhood. And I guarantee you, every one of them's in here. Every person that's listed in this book, in all of your neighborhoods, some of you may know, are anxious by what you're doing, ecstatic that you're willing to cut them by the knees and let them flounder, to not hold them accountable so that they can run their course, live their life, and continue to propagate the generational violence in our city, in our neighborhoods, unchecked. That's the side you've chosen. That's the side that you are standing with when you continue to allow every avenue aimed at helping communities fall to the wayside. Remember that as you vote today. Remember how you will explain that to your constituents when there's no one showing up to it because nobody called. Yes, we'd love 911 calls to be answered, but we also know no one makes those calls anymore. Know what you're doing and prepare for it accordingly, because I guarantee you, your residents will be prepared as well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.